Hi everyone, it's Alex, and today I'm doing the no disclaimers tag. I think this is only my second tag since the BookTube newbie tag, but I was tagged by the really nice and always lovely Ollie from Ollie Bliss. I feel like Ollie is always very considerate of any time when he talks about a book, he presents it not only in a really accessible way, but a very thought-provoking way as well. Not to mention, Ollie, if you're watching, you are an incredible artist, and I wish I could do what you do. But anyway, on to the questions. So the first question says, which trope or tropes in books annoy you the most? I don't know if it annoys me the most, but it's definitely one that comes to mind a lot. And for me, that's any time where there's sort of this teen protagonist, but the teenager always has some sort of conflict with his or her parents. Not that it's even really the writing for the teen that's the fault here, but it's just that the parents always seem very mad. And when they're mad, that's fine, because having a child, I imagine. But it seems like their anger is never really complex or very thought out. It just doesn't feel fully realized to me. I really only ever see this happen in YA books, but even still, it seems like, luckily, that it seems like it's taking a turn where there are parents in a lot of books now in YA, I feel like, that are much more nurturing and considerate and caring. So I really like the direction that's going in. Question 2. Which writer or writers do you feel are overrated / overhyped? This is a bit of a hard question just because I find that I don't have a lot of recurring works by authors unless I already like that author. But definitely someone that came to mind is Zadie Smith. I feel like I made a huge mistake when the first Zadie Smith I read was NW or Northwest. For me, it just really wasn't my jam or my speed, although I really want to read her newest book coming out, I believe this year, which is something like Feel Free, I think. Although I've had On Beauty and White Teeth by Zadie Smith for years on my shelf, I just really need to kind of have the energy to read them. I think Zadie Smith is a great essayist, so I'm really excited for her new collection of essays, which I think Feel Free is about. Question 3. What are your least favorite books you've read since joining BookTube? I'll have to say I'm already really quite selective with the books I do read. I never read anything on a whim. But I think since joining BookTube, it's definitely been Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. I read that a couple months ago, and I read it at the recommendation of friends because they loved it. But usually when that happens, I get a little hesitant already just because I very much already stick to a certain style or kind of a list of books I already know I want to read. Question 4. A terrible ending that ruined an otherwise quality book. For this one, I'll have to go with Gold Fame Citrus by Claire V. Watkins. I thought the writing in this was really beautiful and really good. What I didn't think was great, it's like Claire V. Watkins remembered that she had to be telling a story, and I feel like it just wasn't executed in the best way I thought it could be. Specifically with the way it ended, I feel like it was sort of abrupt with the whole thing. I feel like it's something about a child, I can't really remember. I read this maybe 2.5 years ago. Love Claire V. Watkins' writing. I really want to check out Battleborn by her. I think that's her collection of short stories because I really do love her writing. And hopefully I'm going to the same school she went to for her MFA within the fall. So, question 5. Which fictional character or characters do you wish were not killed off? Okay, so immediately the very first one that comes to mind, which I feel like a lot of people would think I would say Jude from A Little Life. And I was crushed by Jude's death in A Little Life, but I would have to also go with Willem from A Little Life. To me, Willem, I feel like people forget that he's also a very spotlight character in A Little Life, especially since I've been rereading A Little Life. For me, I feel like Willem really had more of the discovery about himself and who he was and how he was trying to find himself, just like how Jude was when getting past everything that happened to him. But I really appreciate the sort of patience with Willem's development and his character and how his sort of connections with Jude were very thought out and thought extensively about. Question 6. What are some of your bookish pet peeves? Actually, this is one I think of all the time, but whenever I see people taking a picture, like people that I feel like, probably don't read, really, they're just using the book as a prop, and they always open the book in the middle of the section. I get a bit skeptical if I think someone's taking a picture of themselves reading and it's always in the middle of the book. I feel like I'm onto something about that, but who knows. Question 7. What are some books you feel should have more recognition? I have a couple for this one. And the first one is Did You Ever Have a Family by Bill Clegg. Of Of course, I feel like this is definitely a book everyone knows about, but I feel like in terms of Bill Clegg, I feel like no one really talks about or wonders whatever happened to him. I know Bill Clegg, he's more commonly known as a literary agent, I think with his own like literary agent company. And he's also had past works, but I just really want him to put out more stuff. Even in the terms of this book, I thought it was well done and I appreciated it. It didn't really wow me, but I still think the storytelling is worth him writing more stories like this. And the second book I have is A List of Cages by Robin Rowe. I bought this whenever it first came out because it sounded really interesting to me, but I feel like the BookTube community didn't really take hold of this until like months after its release. Even in general, even with the YA community that I don't entirely keep up with, I expected this book to like take the YA community by storm. And this book does have really positive and great reviews and people do seem to really like it, but I just thought it was gonna be much more of a hit or much more present than it currently is, but I feel like it's still recognized, maybe not just as much as I anticipated. Question 8. What are your thoughts on censorship and banning books? I think banning books is really quite ridiculous. I don't really think it really does anything, especially in the much more digital age that everyone is growing up in, where banned books is more concerned with. Also, I can't really remember this or if I'm entirely telling the truth, but I feel like the rules for banned books, it's really as long as some sort of guardian or usually a parent complains about any certain text being used in schools, I think then it automatically becomes a banned book. But even then, I feel like if you like Google banned books and it's one of the very first sites, they give you kind of a definition of what a banned book is. And the definition itself is really entirely vague and subjective. And I feel like by putting limits on what's considered a banned book, you're sort of only having very much a limited view, or I could argue to even say a very much Western or white view of the very sort of like, you can't really call a book anything because it means something different to everybody. And the last question, who do you tag? So I still feel like I'm like a BookTube baby, but if I had to tag anyone, I would really feel intrigued for this video or this tag. I'd love to see Shaza. Oh, she just changed her name, which I can't remember. I think it has the word hook in it. But Shaza, if you're looking at this, I think you would do really well with this tag if you haven't done it already. And of course I tag Claire from Claire Reads Books. She's incredible. I find myself really engaged with all of Claire's content. I think she's really insightful and she always talks very well and eloquently. As always, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you next time.